What's up, rock stars? Can't wait to get this started. Hey, let's all, most of us are probably connected here on already. You probably saw it on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, but if we're not, let's change it. So drop your LinkedIn web link in the chat so everybody can connect with each other. So feel free, self-promote a little bit. Put your LinkedIn profile URL in the chat. We'll do the same. Let's make sure we're all connected and following each other.
Hello. Yep.
Excellent. Well, you think the number's still rolling in? I definitely want to make sure that we have enough time. And since I'm doing a very soft intro before we get into the meat of our panel today, I'm just going to start kicking it off. So again, welcome everyone. If you did not get Eric's message, please feel free to share your information in the chat. Definitely would like to connect with you, especially after today's very interesting panel. We have a wonderful web chat series event. Again, a big thank you for Eric and team for promoting this. Voluntary Benefits for the Win. Love it. I think it's a great title. I think you're all going to learn a lot of information today. My name is Kendall Sasso. I'm the Field Marketing Manager at BCS Financial, and we've been hosting these chat series with our friend Eric Silverman for the past few months. So hopefully you've had a chance to check out some of our past events. But in the meantime, I'm going to give it back over to him so he can kick us off properly and start the session. So Eric, back to you.
All right. Hey guys. Hey everybody. Hey rock stars. If you just came in and you didn't hear me already, please make sure you drop your LinkedIn profile web link in the chat box and let's all make sure we're connected. So let's get this thing started. I'm not moderating. You're going to hear my awesome voice. I know, right? But I'm going to turn this over to Ed. But before I do that, let me just give a quick shout out and huge thank you to our friends over at BCS Financial. This is, I don't even remember at this point, 3, 4, 5, 100 web chats we've done collectively over the years. But they're always putting on a good party. They're hosting the party. Do them a courtesy. Do me a favor. Help them out. Check out bcsf.com, BCS Financial, bcsf.com. I keep saying it and I mean it, guys. They're one of the best kept hidden gems, hidden secrets in the voluntary insurance world today. And they shouldn't be a secret anymore. So Ed, what are we talking about today?
Talking about just that, my man. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. But, we got Dan McNeil with BCS. We got you, Eric, of course, your beautiful face. And then we've also got Charlotte here from Santa Cruz Insurance. And these are some rock stars in the voluntary space. And what I'm excited to talk about today is and learn from you all today, what some of the benefits of offering voluntary benefits. What does that even mean anymore these days? How has that particular aspect of the benefit industry change? And maybe we'll learn a couple of stories or maybe some faux pas, if you will, as well. So I want you guys to be honest. I want you to be raw, but have some fun at the same time. So, you've already, heard Eric kind of kick us off here. You can get connected with us on LinkedIn, check out our websites, but let's just jump right in, guys. You guys ready for this?
Let's do it. We're born ready.
Perfect. So, at this point, we're 2.5 years in, or at least maybe even coming out of a pandemic. And, we've talked about this multiple times in various different fireside chats and so on and so forth. But in your opinion, how has the definition of employee benefits changed, and especially with your role in the voluntary benefits space, right? A lot of you may work with benefit advisors such as myself or many others throughout the country, so on and so forth. So can you guys walk me through what you believe voluntary benefits role in and how it has changed over the last couple of years? Let's go with you, Dan. You want to kick us off here real quick?
Sure, absolutely. So as we know, through the COVID environment, people were forced to work at home and then chose to work at home. And not too many people had an office built at home, but they did have that spot where they kept their bills and they kept them there until they got them paid, or until they made phone calls to the doctor or the insurance company. Well, that's all of a sudden where their desk is set up. So now we have people sitting at home at work with their bills sitting in front of them all day. And they're seeing articles pop up about these types of benefits. So I think that one of the things I've noticed is it's a lot easier to try and get an employee engaged when they're enrolling, because the bills are fresh on their mind and they know they need to do something. They've got more think time. They don't, rather than a drive time, they're just sitting there in the morning looking at the bills and then trying to handle them throughout the day. So again, I think it's just more of an acknowledgement that, you know, we do have an issue here, and it sounds like these voluntary benefits may be something that can help us.
Absolutely. I think you mentioned a really good point there with regards to people having a lot more maybe personal time to think about their personal situations. They're sitting at home, maybe no longer at the office anymore. And especially, you know, now we have a lot of employers that are doing hybrid workspaces and things of that nature. But again, you know, we've definitely cast a light on what's more important to people at the end of the day. And as inflation gets higher and things of that nature, I'm sure these benefits definitely have their place. So Charlotte, do you mind kind of chiming in a little bit on this topic as well? What do you believe, you know, has changed with regards to especially voluntary benefits?
Number one, I think awareness, okay, more than ever. When I started in this business a long time ago, probably before any of you, I'm sure I'm the oldest on the panelist. You know, when I would talk to a broker or an employer, they really didn't want to discuss it, right? It was, what is that? That's a sidebar. We're not interested. The focus was just on health insurance. And I think with COVID, with the pandemic, and as the years have changed, voluntary benefits, ancillary, whatever you guys would like to refer to them as, has become part of the health plan. Right? It's not secondary. It's not last, you know, in the technology lineup. It is becoming the right after the health benefit plans, and not after, you know, the dental, the vision, but it is a combined effort now. And with the pandemic, employees and employers realize they need to step up their game and provide benefits that would help the employees. The number one question I get all the time is, what do you have that you can provide? And we want it all. Okay. So I think it's been great. Again, it's been informative for employers and for brokers. I work with both. And so we're really excited about it.
You know, I think you mentioned a great point. I feel like a lot of times, especially archaically, voluntary benefits just kind of ends up in the latter part of a benefit presentation, right? Employees are listening at an open enrollment meeting, they're drinking from a fire hose, and then you finish with some of these, you know, ancillary products, and by that time, their eyes are glossed over, they're checking their watch, or they're moving on to the next thing. Especially in this virtual world, they've probably tuned out and gotten another cup of coffee or something of that nature as well, right? So, and I know, Eric, this is something you're pretty passionate about as well. So can you chime in and talk us through a little bit of your thoughts? How do we kind of change that paradigm, right? How do we ensure that these benefits are right at the forefront of maybe the health plan, especially as Charlotte just mentioned, these benefits kind of work together, right?
Sure. So I'm glad you threw it over to me, because I'm really passionate about all these topics, but specifically the order in which things get presented. So when you're talking to employers and/or talking to employees, I always encourage our broker advisor partners that I work with throughout the country to think of it as you're going to your favorite rock star band. You're going to a band, your concert. You just bought tickets to Metallica. You just bought tickets to Jay-Z, right? I'm taking my dad and my cousin and my uncle to Elton John in September at National Stadium, even though I don't like the Nats. We're spending top dollar and time to go see the closing act, to go see the main event, the actual highlight. The party starts with that, right? So by default, as night follows day, every employer wants to talk about health insurance. It's okay. Everybody on this call admits it. It's not a problem. I'm not offended by that, and nobody on this call is either. As night follows day, an employee goes through their benefit enrollment system or their benefit presentation. They're there to learn about health insurance. Again, no problem. I get it. It's totally fine. That's Elton John. That's Metallica. That's Jay-Z. I get it. It's totally okay.
Right.
So with that in mind, why are you talking about it first? You're running out of time And then by the end of the employer and employee presentation, you're out of time. And it ends up being, oh man, I forgot there's these voluntary, expensive, not so expensive things that you might want to pay for. Most times employees pay for. People might like it. It might be interesting. But don't worry about it. We can just talk about it next year. I know it's already been a 3-hour meeting, right?
Right. Yes.
Verbatim, maybe not so much, but almost pretty close to what I just said is how every meeting goes with employers and employees. So why not switch it up, right? Just flip the script. So why not start with the opening act, right? The opener, which is vital and still fun, is voluntary, enhanced benefits, whatever you want to call them, ancillary, voluntary, supplemental, enhanced, essential. You can talk about pet insurance and prepaid legal. You talk about accident, critical illness, hospital. I don't care what you talk about,
Right.
but do it first while they're fresh. I promise you, by the end of that, they're not going to cancel the meeting and tell you, oh, well, we ran out of time to talk about health insurance, so I guess we'll just skip that. That
Right.
will not happen. I promise you. And if you have to schedule a follow-up meeting just for medical, no problem. But again, keep that in mind. You pay top dollar, and time is important too. You take your time to go see your favorite artist, your favorite concert, your favorite show. Put the opening act as voluntary type benefits, which is not so exciting, but then you never run out of time.
That's a fantastic point. I think you're the king of analogies, right? And that brings up another interesting point to me. Do you ever run into any issues with regards to getting employers or maybe even your broker partners to understand how to maybe position those benefits ahead of time and with the health plan, with the main event, right? I can only imagine that, especially if you have someone that's just been doing things the same way over time. How do you collaborate? What does that collaboration look like in order to make sure the end user actually gets the best value at the end of the day?
Charlotte's dying to answer that.
Yeah.
Oh, I am. So, we, going back to what Eric had talked about, everyone looks at the health plan, and they're right, as the king of benefits. And I like to say, well, voluntary benefits is its queen, right? Right. I don't think you can have anymore a successful employee benefits program without one complementing the other. They are symbiotic, right? And I do feel that in the last couple of years, employers are asking for it. I'll give you an example of what happened to us during the pandemic. So everyone was upset, worried, what are we going to do? We're going to go out of business. We're sitting home. We can't go anywhere, right? But what are we going to do about seeing employees? Now, my company, we are a face-to-face company, but we have technology to back it up as well. The first call, and this came from anywhere from California to New York to Florida and all in between. So it's not a geographical answer here or solution. You know what they wanted? They didn't want another enrollment until we could do it face to face. I was blown away when we started getting these emails and calls. We'd say, okay, it's time for open enrollment. How about we put this on the platform and we can do call center? And they said, no, we'll pass. We want you guys to come out, because they are seeing now the value more than ever of doing. And again, it can be a hybrid, like Eric mentioned, and Ed, like you talked about as well. And that probably is the best of both worlds, with the king and the queen together. But it's definitely necessary to not forget how important these benefits are to people, because guess what? They come and they go from an employer, right? They move around a lot. These are benefits they can take with them, keep, as long as they pay the premiums and the rates don't go up. And that's something they're not going to take from the employer as they migrate around.
You mentioned an interesting point there. The rate's not going up, right? And as long as they keep it, and especially, inflation's going up, and, a lot of employers are actually even hunkering down in preparation for maybe some tough financial times leading up. And Charlotte, I'm going to ask you this really quickly, and then I'd love Eric and Dan to chime in on this too. But you mentioned an interesting point. one of my favorite forms of education and technology actually is face-to-face interaction. I just feel like even whether it's your internal team or speaking externally to someone, that's just the best way to get the most bang for your buck from a value perspective. So do you believe, it almost sounds like it, but I would love for you to answer, do you believe that that's one of the best ways to educate, especially on these types of benefits that may be forgotten, right?
I think it is the best way. And again, a hybrid of both. And I'm going to use my children as an example. So forgive me, kids, right now, because they are the best example. One is a doctor, okay? One is an accountant, and one is a health underwriter, okay? So think about that. Doctor, accountant, health underwriter. As they change companies, positions, and they migrate around, especially after the pandemic, so they have everything online, right? And they're online reading. The first call they make is, Mom, can you explain this to me? Why would I need a life plan? How does that work? Is it portable? I even talked to a broker recently, the CFO of the company, and he said, I did not know that we could take these with us, or that when I did leave and I take one plan, I can get another one the same type where I go next. Oh, I'm going to get both. There is so much positive that you can do with a voluntary benefits plan, but it's understanding it. Like my children, they needed advice. And there's only so much you can do online. They're smart. They went online, they read all the great scripts and the videos before it. And it was like, forget that, don't have time. Mom, help me out. That is what I believe. And look, this parlays into the health insurance as well, because a lot of times they want us to communicate the health, right? So what better than to have a human interaction? On the phone is fine. We can't get everywhere. I have some clients with 26 locations. That's a little tough. We pick and choose, and we mix it up. One quarter we're going to go here on site, one quarter there, group meetings, but it is so important. Just as my kids need help, so does everyone else.
Hey, real quick, I want to hear feedback from Ed, and I want to hear Dan's opinion on that. But just as a quick reminder, guys, this is Q&A. We have some canned, patented panel type questions that we know are on your mind. Obviously, you've all been a part of panels before. You know how it works. But we'd love organic questions. So check out that Q&A, right? Right at the bottom of your screen, click the Q&A, type in your questions, and Kendall will filter them over to us from BCS so we can answer them for you live. And any we can't get to, we're happy to take offline. You can certainly put them in the chat, but we don't want them to get lost. Ed, sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, just, same question. I think Charlotte talked, really amazingly and shared her story with her kids. About the one form of technology, one form of education and face-to-face. I'd love to hear Dan and you, Eric, kind of give your opinions on this. Is that one of the best ways to reach people? And but we are dealing with a multi-generational workforce though at the same time, right? We've got people who are glued to their phones and glued to, or maybe just glued to the computer screens and such. And some people are extroverts and need that face-to-face interaction, right? So walk me through where you feel is some of the best methods to get that reach, right?
I would say facts tell and stories sell. So you can put all the statistics down that you want. My kids never came up to me and said, "Hey, Dad, can you read us a bedtime fact?" They wanted stories. That's what they like. And that's what we have to do, whether we're doing that with some type of artificial intelligence, or whether we're doing that with a cartoon, or whether we're doing that with a live operator at the other end of the phone. We need that interaction, because I'm very passionate about voluntary benefits, and it angers me that I've been in the business so long that we used to say on the medical insurance that this is insurance that pays doctors and hospitals and their bills. Now let's talk about insurance that pays you for special diets, family care, for transportation to and from the hospital, for a babysitter, for the pizza because you're busy at the hospital, for lost income. We quit talking about those things when deductibles, coinsurance, and copays got so high. Yeah. I went from trying to explain to my wife when her company was offering voluntary benefits for the first time, I explained a plan to her. We bought the hospital indemnity plan. And then when it came time to use it, when I got COVID, she's like, well, why would we have bought the base plan and not the enhanced plan? Why didn't we have the higher payout plan? So people do need educated. They do need to know. So whatever your method is, make sure that you're telling stories. You're putting them in a position where they are using the product before they're using the product so that they understand what it does. And there are so many good products out there with so many enhancements to the way that we put in wellness benefits and take care of parental care, take care of pet care. I mean, there's all kinds of really cool benefits in there. But at the end of the day, people don't have money to pay their deductibles, co-insurance, copay, and max out of pocket. When you say hi to the doctor in the hospital, and many times you've hit your out-of-pocket maximum for the year, where is that money going to come from? And that's not counting all the other things I mentioned. Your spouse's income because they're sitting in the lobby, the babysitter who's watching the kids, the meal that you ordered out instead of making it home. Let's face it, all of this is very, very expensive. And you haven't seen voluntary benefits premiums rated for inflation. So it's a good deal right now to get these voluntary benefits. Sorry, I get a little passionate about this.
That was great.
That's what I want. And I'm so happy that you mentioned that, stories selling. I've always been a massive believer that here in this benefit industry, that we have amazing stories to tell. No one likes insurance. Let's be real, right? Insurance is not sexy at the end of the day. But you know what is telling stories. People want to hear other people's stories. People want to hear real life scenarios that maybe affect them so that they can resonate and understand, I just feel passionately about how people learn these particular items too. So Eric, I'm going to let you have a chance to have a crack at this question. Then I got a different one for you guys as well.
Well, you should just ask a different question because I already lost the actual original question after hearing all these rock stars. I just love, I made a joke, half joke on LinkedIn this morning with frequently heard excuses. And I literally said, one of the excuses somebody's going to have to not join this is that Dan is too smart. And he just blew my mind. Like I'm not smart enough to comprehend the inflation sale, but that's why I wasn't paying attention. I'm typing notes as I go. And I hate that, but thank you, Dan. You are too smart for me.
Great.
Don't take me outside of this environment. You'd be a little disgusted.
But everything we're talking about is more of the how we educate, employees on these particular situations, right? But what about the when? A lot of times we're just focused on one time a year, right? We have one meeting, or maybe, as Charlotte mentioned earlier, we've got multiple locations, so maybe there's multiple meetings there. Someone had this question here, and I thought it's a fantastic question. Can we change the time of year or the how we do these education sessions to maybe it'll boost more engagement in these voluntary benefits? Do we even call them voluntary benefits anymore? I know you like to call them enhanced benefits. Walk me through that, Eric.
All right. So, and as a fantastic question, thank you, Bruce Chutan, for putting that in the chat box or in the Q&A. So when you can do it either way. You can do an off-cycle enrollment. You can do in season for open enrollment, medical, everything together at once. I think the real question is, what is the effective date for medical? What are we trying to accomplish? What's the real goal? Like, you have to reverse engineer it. So for instance, if I'm meeting with a brand new account through a broker partner of mine, and I'm meeting them in October or November for the first time, or even September for the first time, and they are a 1/1 effective date, and the broker and the client, they need it all to be done at the same time. Okay, fair enough. It's happening already. We're right at that time. It makes sense. I get it. I don't like it necessarily. I'm going to explain, but I get it. But if I'm meeting an employer for the first time in February or March or April or May or June, and they're a 1/1 as an example, I am darn sure going to push for an off-cycle enrollment for multiple reasons. Number one, a lot of times they're putting in a new benefit enrollment system. They're putting in a new platform. A lot of times they They don't have anything currently. They're voluntary, if they even have it, hasn't been shopped in years, if ever. A lot of times employers and brokers will put it in one time and forget about it, and 20 years later it's the same old stale benefits from whatever carrier they had 20 years ago. I see that often, right? Ed and I are working on a case together now, and they don't even have these types of benefits, and they have hundreds of employees. It's just mind-boggling. So the reality is, yes, it will extremely be helpful to boost the enrollment as far as engagement, but more so what it does, I'm not a big believer in pitching products. So when I'm messaging the employees around the country for any enrollment that we handle, and we're completely, and I love what Charlotte said, but we're the opposite of Charlotte. So we're all tech-based, all self-serve enrollment-based. I don't have an army of enrollers. I'm not an enrollment firm. We let tech do the work for us. When I'm communicating to my employee clients across the country, I'm letting the party, the host of the party, be the center of attention. And I'm also letting the main event be the center of attention, because I know that if we're putting in something appealing, dare I use the term sexy, that's going to drive engagement. So as much as I want to, quote unquote, sell accident, critical, and hospital and whatever plan, I don't mention that on message communications ever. I'll talk about medical, if it's a medical enrollment. I'll talk about student loan repayment, although it might not be needed now. We're not going to go there. I'll talk about identity theft. I'll talk about pet insurance. I'll talk about something, the pharmacy carve out. I'll talk about something that is more topical, more engage worthy, that actually people would care about. I promise you, I've beta tested it for years. If I send a text message to a bunch of employees and I say, hey, great news, we have a great accident plan. BCS has the best accident plan known to man. Doesn't matter. Employees are not going to click the button because nobody cares about an accident or critical illness plan. But what they do care about, particularly these days, is pet benefits, pet insurance, and things that are topical, lifestyle benefits, experience-based benefits that Ed and I talk about on the Benefits Cool Down. Tune in every Friday. Anyway, so again, yes, you should do it off cycle when you can. It's going to get people acclimated with the system. They're going to get used to it. They'll be able to log in and get ready for the main event, which will be medical at the end of the year. And yes, oh my gosh, as night follows day, the actual participation skyrockets on the actual benefits that everybody on this call really thinks more about: accident, critical, hospital, et cetera, et cetera.
Ed, I'd like to make a comment, if I could, to follow.
Oh, she's going to slap me. Here it comes.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just going to compliment what you said. Exactly. So we probably do 90%, maybe even higher, off-cycle enrollments. And so, yes, we do have boots on the ground. That is, what I've done for a long time. But we try to do, and our clients like this, to meet with as many employees as we can. Again, a lot of it is online as well. So we kind of do a mix of both, but we will do it off cycle most of the time initially. Just had another group from Oklahoma give us a call this week, and their renewal is in January. And they said, well, let's just go ahead and make this switch for voluntary now, because we want our employees to be able to understand they're two different items, although they go together. One is employee funded typically, and they can go with them. And the employer obviously is contributing to the major medical. So they really do like an opportunity for them. And this goes back to what Eric said in the beginning, to get an opportunity to hear the story about voluntary benefits, what they really mean, and get a chance to focus on that. And Ed, I think you also mentioned at the beginning, if you do it all together, then in the end, they're saying, oh, forget it, let's go. We don't have time for those benefits. So I think it's important to do both. We can no longer do this business without technology, without online enrollments systems, because yes, the younger generation, they do like it, but at the same time, they like what y'all been talking about, and that is having someone live to talk to, whether it's in person or it's on the phone. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Technology is here to stay. It's only going to become more and more prevalent at the end of the day. And you mentioned a great point. And Eric, as you were chatting about, or just kind of listing products, it got me thinking about something. You were listing product after product after product, right? And it got me thinking about, we've all been to conferences, and there's an exhibit hall, and you're walking down the middle of the exhibit hall, and you're seeing all these eyes looking at you, right? All these vendors and solution providers and point solutions looking at you, and maybe you have tons of, great ideas that you learn from all these. How do you, I have to imagine employees kind of feel the same thing too when there's just a plethora of benefit products out there to choose from. I have a couple, it's kind of a two-part question if I can ask you guys really quickly. One, how do you streamline what benefits should be offered as voluntary or enhanced benefits? And secondly, what's going to be the most important in that mix as well, right? One of the questions that actually came up, I think is a fantastic question with this. You've got 20 or more voluntary products out there, but you've only got a few payroll slots too, right? You might have an issue from an actual technology requirement or a restriction. How do you handle the streamlining of what's important and then also making it fit with the technology that maybe exists in their current status today?
Let's let Dan handle that.
Yeah, I would tell you, you use what God gives you. Last night, just to give you an example, last night about 9 o'clock, I get an email from one of my colleagues, Bobby Jan, and he's telling me about this Benefits Pro article that my friend Marty Trainer wrote for the September issue. And in there, he was talking about hospital indemnity plans. And he gave some statistics. A childbirth in 1974 was $767. In 2021, the average childbirth is $18,865. A hospital room in 1974 was $72. In 2021 is over $2,600 a day. Now, what he also found in there were some LIMRA statistics that had just been released. So here it goes from LIMRA to Marty, to Bobby, to Dan, to Bobby's boss, back to Dan. This morning at 6:30 in an email, I'm taking this article and I've been on the phone with brokers all day saying, did you know that voluntary benefit numbers are up 6% year to date? But did you know that hospital indemnity is up over 12%? Why is that? It's because it's finally hitting people that there are products available, and those dollars. I mean, the average person doesn't have $400 to $600 set aside for a medical expense. So I say you take an article like that hasn't even hit the print copy yet. It's just the internet version. Yep. And you take an article like that and you go out and get yourself 3 off-cycle enrollments between now and November.
I mean,
Yep.
Exactly. You're spitting facts at us right there. And one of the things that you mentioned with regards to the average person can't handle a surprise $400 to $600 bill, not to mention, again, a lot of these benefits are meant to complement the main event, as Eric spoke earlier about, right? And you've got medical plans. A lot of employers are still making those drastic differences in increasing deductibles. You look at the Kaiser Family Foundation, the average deductible of individuals is increasing throughout the nation. It's gone over nearly $1,700 now, right? And so someone has an initial hospitalization, they got to come up with $1,700 like yesterday in order to cover that cost, right? So Charlotte, I'm going to kick that over to the same question over to you. How do you help streamline that? Is hospital indemnity maybe one of those solutions too? Do you look at what they have in place? Dan said it great. You work with what God's given you. Walk me through your approach in helping a benefit provider, a broker, an employer, and maybe an employee choose the right solutions.
Well, I start with what we know and what we've experienced, not through the employer or the broker, but the employee. Okay. What is it the employee is talking to us about? What is that employee calling us? So, we have a service department here. I like to rely on my own team to be that for the policy holders. What are they calling in? What are they actually using? And as Dan said, yes, hospital income is a big one. Sadly, we've seen a lot of life as well in that lineup. It used to be accident all the time. Now it's critical illness. And so again, that's how we start. We go by what our service team is telling us and what our counselors are telling us that people want the most. And I would say hospital income, number one, because it certainly complements the health plan. Critical illness is equally as important to a lot of people. It's easy to get, it's easy to understand, especially if it's a guarantee issue product. And it's a lump sum benefit. The days of we're going to do a cancer plan, those are sort of going by the wayside. Now it's an all-in-one, inclusive, and it's easy. Employees want easy. If I have a diagnosis or I go in the hospital, I want to get paid quickly. I don't want to become an accountant to get paid, right? So they're looking for simplicity. They're looking for better coverage to complement the gaps in the health plan. So to me, the critical illness, the hospital income, and I'm never going to forget this one because it is probably one of the top products we go to market with, and that is a permanent life plan. Too many people look that over. It's too hard to sell. It's this, it's that. So what? Learn it. That is something valuable. I mean, even at my age, when I was younger, I thought, I don't need another plan. When that term life plan expires, we're good. Let me tell you, most people aren't good when they're in their 50s, late 40s, and it expires, certainly not their 60s. And with the long-term care riders that are available, look into that. Many states are now mandating long-term care. And if you don't have it, they're going to take it out in taxes, out of payroll. We enrolled a case last year with 800 employees, just that one product. So there's so many, but again, we go back to what we hear the consumer wanting. And from there, I work with the broker, I work with the employer to show them the value of what we're hearing. And that goes a long way, certainly more than a brochure. Sorry, I'm so long-winded, but you asked.
Spot on.
I'm passionate about it. Yeah.
I asked and
Preach.
You answered, right? And yeah, just keep preaching it. But you mentioned a couple points there that just got me thinking. I mean, at the end of the day, this is extra cost, right? It's extra deductions out of employees' paychecks. No matter how little or how much these benefits cost, it's additional dollars at the end of the day. Eric, I know you're pretty passionate about this particular aspect. Where can the employer kind of help employees from an affordability standpoint of all these benefits? And maybe are there some creative ways that we can offer these benefits to make them as affordable as possible, right? So it's not just necessarily seen like, oh my gosh, I'm paying an extra 30, 40, 50 bucks a month for all this extra insurance, right? Perception is reality at the end of the day. Walk me through some of your approach.
Sure. So, I'm number one, I've seen and personally experienced over the last really 5-6 years pre-pandemic, and it's certainly gotten bigger and better, that quote unquote voluntary benefits, guys, they're not so voluntary anymore. If you're on this, if you're listening in with us today, do yourself, and if you have a boss or a carrier you report to, do them a favor too, and the employer and the employee, and stop thinking of voluntary benefits as voluntary. Heck, everything is voluntary. That's why I hate the term voluntary benefits. It's voluntary for you to register and be on this webinar. It's voluntary for us to be here talking. It's voluntary for everything, right? So the better term I use is enhanced benefits, because all I'm trying to do, and I think you got it earlier, because what did I say? The main event, the Elton John concert, is health insurance. So all I'm trying to do, all the supporting opening act for Elton John is trying to do, is enhance the experience. That's all we're trying to do. So that's why I use that term. Well, if you only talk about benefits as being voluntary and supplemental and ancillary by definition is, have you ever looked it up? Ancillary by definition means not important for the most part. Check it out, dictionary.com, websters.com. You will be shocked at what that dictionary definition is. It's alluding to non-important. So in essence, I don't pitch voluntary benefits as voluntary. Darn near every account that I talk to with a broker's permission, because it's their account, I'm there to help them and support them. I'm talking about employer-funded enhanced benefits, how they can add value to their mission by either adding to their budget and or redistributing and reallocating money that they're wasting elsewhere. So I'll give you a perfect example. And again, I'll throw it back to Ed and I. Ed and I are working on a case together. Ed, for those that don't know, Ed's not a voluntary guy by definition. He's a enhanced guy. No, he is a full service. Ed's a full service health broker, advisor, consultant, whatever term you want to use. Heck, the guy was on the cover of Benefits Pro magazine last year. He's the 2021 Benefits Pro Broker of the Year, and he didn't get there because of voluntary benefits. I promise you, it might have helped, but it's all the intricate plans he designs in the medical world. Well, in essence, guys, we're on this call today, and we had a few over the last many months. And this company has a couple hundred employees, and they don't have any of these enhanced type benefits, as you would call them, voluntary benefits, accident, critical, hospital type benefits. And we're talking about other things that they may potentially be wasting money on because they have a status quo broker that was really just checking a box. And I'm not going to go into specific detail, but here's the bottom line. We could potentially fine them $60,000 to $100,000 that they're wasting on benefits that nobody knows about, nobody cares about, that frankly, the employer admittedly said, we don't even know why we're paying for it. So if we as the employer don't know why we're paying for it, darn sure know that the employees don't know why we have it or what the value is. So what we say is, why not? You don't have to take the whole 100 grand. Why not take $60,000, right? And you can pocket the other 40,000 and throw a party for your employees, do whatever you want. But why don't you take $60,000, example, divide it up every month over 200 employees. And if you do the math, that is $25 per employee per month that you could give every employee in the form of what I call a shopping spree. Some people use the term benefits bucket. I like shopping spree. The dictionary definition in the insurance world would be referred to as a defined contribution, but that's boring and nobody knows what that means. So try saying defined contribution to an employee population and see how far you go. But shopping spree is exciting. Who doesn't want a shopping spree? Ed's going to give me his credit card. I'm going to go on a shopping spree. Thanks, Ed. Right? So when you reposition, here we are reallocating. We're telling the employer, hey, you have some funds. Don't just pocket it. You're not poor. You're not desperate. You're not laying people off. You're not going out of business. Just potentially double down on benefits and reallocate and give the money to your employees and let them, this is the key, guys, let them become true consumers of healthcare. Let them use the money, use it or lose it, figure out what they want to use those funds for. And in my experience, by the way, $25 might not sound like a lot of money. That is a lot of money to an employee. And from my experience, the average employee will match or more whatever their employer gives them. So if you give them $25 per employee per month, most employees are going to do a payroll deduction of at least $25, maybe $50 in addition to what the employer is already doing. So voluntary, no, stop saying that. It's enhanced benefits. And if you start selling and continue selling voluntary, you're right. It's always going to be voluntary. If you reframe it and have a different conversation, you're going to start getting more and more employer funded benefits. And I'll end with this part right here. This is so important, right? How many of us want sticky business, right? How many of us want business that stays on the books? It's mighty difficult for an employer to pay for a shopping spree for a year or two and then take it away. Can it happen? Sure. But it's mighty difficult. They get an employee revolt on their hands. So once they're in, even at a minimum level, you typically have an employer funded defined contribution shopping spree for multiple years in a row.
Sure.
You mentioned something really interesting about the stickiness of the benefits, right? Or the stickiness of that business. You know, the benefit advisory space is incredibly saturated, you know, especially here in, you know, California. I always have this joke that you can't throw a rock without hitting a brokerage firm out here. And so I have to imagine that a strategy like that either helps round out clients, making their benefits a lot more comprehensive, because maybe you can add a little bit more and get more engagement with it. Would you agree with that, Eric?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Charlotte, it sounded like you wanted to chime in on this as well.
I do. So years ago, again, probably before Eric even, you know, got out of high school, we've been around that long. So anyway, we would go to market, and I'm sure you guys have done this too. If even a small employer, they couldn't afford, or say an employer under 50 lives, they couldn't afford a health plan. And this is what, I said, well, give them some money, give them $50, give them 25. And they would go shop, just as Eric mentioned. Look, whether you're an employer, whether you're a broker, whether you're a enhanced benefits representative, and that's your core focus, always ask that. Eric is right. Ask that question. And I'm so glad he touched on this, because this is key. It helps a few things. It even helps penetration in the health plan, and that's what brokers want. It helps penetration, and here's why. Because when they know they have a little money to spend, it's the shopping spree Eric was referring to. They're going to come, right? It's a carrot. They're going to come and they're going to look at everything and see what they can spend it on. Sometimes people will say, well, it's going to be just for the enhanced benefits. That's what this is for. It's use it or lose it. But I will tell you, not only will you increase the participation significantly, they will, yes, Eric, buy up every time. I had one employer who said, okay, I'll give $5. Okay. And I thought, oh, $5, that's rather embarrassing. It wasn't. Employees like anything, it doesn't even have to be 50, right? And so if I could do that every single time, and I tell employers, it's an appreciation. It's a way of you saying, we appreciate you participating in all of our plans. We want to give you a little something extra on the side, the icing on the cake. So it is, to me, that is the most fun of this business. I enjoy it tremendously, and employees appreciate it.
Let me. Oh, I was going to say, let me chime in one thing, because I want to help everybody on the call sell it. Because people, I'm literally, as I speak, getting text messages and LinkedIn messages, and I don't even know some of you yet, but a lot of these messages are about, well, how do you sell it? How do you pitch it? Like, how do you get an employer to spend money on it? So let me just give you a quick pro tip, right? I'll use $25 as the example, because I just talked about it. $25 a month per employee, multiplied by 12 months, divided by 40 hours a week for every employee.
2080.
What's that?
I just said it's 2080 hours. Keep going.
Yeah. Well, when you do the math, here's what it works out to be. 40 hours a week, it's 14 cents per hour. Think about that. It's 14 cents per hour. So if I'm an employer and I pay my top employee, I'm making this up, $43 an hour. It doesn't matter what it is. Could be less, it could be more. If I tell my top employee as the employer, I walk him into the office and I say, Dan, you're my top employee. You've been with me 2 decades. I love you. You're the best. I couldn't run this business without you. I'm giving you a pay raise, man. You deserve it. You're going to go from $43 an hour to $43.14 per hour. Dan, thank you, man. You've been loyal. We appreciate you, buddy. Dan's going to roll his eyes. He's going to probably quit on the spot, because it's insulting to tell him that his raise is 14 cents an hour. It's absolutely insulting. I use that example with employers live on Zoom calls all the time, and they laugh and they agree. They say it's insulting. I could never do that. It looks silly. It's ridiculous, right? 14 cents an hour, guys, is terrible, but perception equals reality. So we don't sell it as 14 cents an hour to the employees. We say, hey, your employer just gave you $300 a year. $300 a year is 14 cents an hour. $300 a year is $25 a month, is 14 cents an hour. So it's all in how it's explained, how it's pitched, how it's looked upon and viewed. So again, the question that you want to ask your employer groups, this is how you sell it. Mr. Miss Employer, where can you spend 14 cents an hour, the equivalent of 14 cents an hour, and get sincere engagement and loyalty and gratefulness and gratitude and thankfulness from your employees? Because 14 cents an hour pay raise ain't going to do it. So it's the same money, right?
Sure.
But it's how it's perceived amongst the employees. And employers look at it and they're like, holy crap, you're right. 14 cents an hour, I could do that. Particularly if you help them reallocate. If they're not spending new money, but they're just reallocating and repurposing some existing funds, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, fantastic point. It's what I'm learning the most here is perception is reality, right? You got to Yeah, someone actually just made a comment in the chat that I actually think resonates with this particular point. There's so many different personality types. You could say the same thing to 4 different people and they've heard 4 different things, right? And so that's a fantastic way to sell it, right? To basically tell a different story. You know, how can you spend an extra 14 cents an hour versus saying, hey, Mr. Employer, I need you to spend an extra $1,000 a month to buy people insurance, right? It's technically the same thing in to some degree, but you have a different story behind it, and that's how you can sell it to your controllers, your CFOs, your HR people. Dan, you know, I have to imagine you're getting tons of RFPs right now. It's getting in the 4th quarter. You know, what are you seeing with regards to like what's hot and what's not right now from a benefit perspective? Are you seeing some particular lines of coverage that are resonating really well with a lot of employers and benefit advisors as well?
Yeah, the old is forever new. So we are still seeing the core benefits of accident, critical illness, hospital indemnity. But I would say some of the other things are do a fantastic fact finder when you're speaking with the owner of the company, because especially when you're going to ask to get into his or her pocket and have them contribute, you want to be able to make sure that it's something that they in turn would be first in line to buy. So maybe it's talking to them about pets, somehow bringing that into the conversation and see how passionate they are about their pets. Maybe it's pet care. The last event I went at, it was auto repair warranties sold on a payroll deduction basis. Brilliant. Love it. Love the new ideas. So I would say identity theft is still very hot. We're seeing more individual cyber policies being sold in the industry. So there's some really, really good stuff out there. And, you know, that's the beauty of having it be like a smorgasbord, and people can pick and choose what they want. But at the end of the day, if you're not asking the right questions on your fact finder with the owner of the company, you're not going to be able to know which arrow to pull out of the quiver.
Absolutely. Charlotte, it looked like you wanted to answer this as well. Did you have something to add?
Not really. I'm just agreeing with what they're saying, 100%.
Hey,
Yeah.
Ed, real quick, just we're going to wrap up here in the next 7-8 minutes. So everybody hopefully stick around. We got some more questions to get to. But if you haven't already, again, I can't thank BCS Financial enough for putting these on every month. A lot of you have been a part of these. We're bringing in some really great guest speakers, such as the panel that we put together here today, not including me, I promise you. So do them a favor, check out bcsf.com, bcsf.com. Connect with Dan. Dan is one of their business development experts. They have a whole team of experts all over the country, but learn about their accident, their critical, their hospital, their fixed indemnity medical, and anything else that you see on their website. Ed, what else do we have to talk about today? What other questions we got?
I mean, you did it again, man. You're naming some coverages here. So I guess one of the things that I wanted to ask really briefly to all of you, and we're going to do a little bit of a lightning round because we're running out of time here. One time a year open enrollment. We also talked about doing offsite enrollments, but how do you keep people engaged? Because at the end of the day, people need insurance when they need it. Just because they heard about it today doesn't mean they need it right now, right? And so they might need to know how it works 3 months from now, 4 months from now. Talk me through some of your, engagement strategies really quick. Eric, I'll have you go first.
I think the key is, and I'll move quick, is you just got to be everywhere. So there's no reason you can't do in-person one-on-one and a self-serve enrollment and a call center with video, without video. There's no reason you can't and shouldn't I should say, there's no reason you should not do everything when it comes to communication. So it should be email. It should also be text message. It should also be Slack and Teams and Discord. It should also be social media. It should also be video. It should also be webinars. It should also be podcasts. And I'm not even done. But guys, we do all of that stuff. Literally every single thing I talked about. Oh, and I forgot ringless voicemails, where every employee at the company gets a voicemail dropped in their voicemail box that says it's open enrollment time, plus the intranet. Right? There's so many things. Do it all. Cherry pick what's going to work best. You partner with your employer and make sure as a client they understand what they need, and it's a true partnership. But let's just remember this, right? Medical insurance is the second largest expenditure on a company's P&L, right? Why do we even bother handling and doing benefits? Why are we doing it? if nobody is becoming a true consumer of healthcare? What is the flipping point? If nobody's utilizing healthcare properly, particularly if it's a self-funded or level-funded plan, and they don't know where to go and who to go see and how to approach their medical and so forth, right? They're getting their knee done at the big name hospital that costs $100,000 when they could go to a local clinic. You got to be an expert at knowing these things so you can truly help your medical broker partner, if that's the case, drive people where it needs to go, and then frankly help the employer with their claim spend, so stuff doesn't hit stop loss. So anyway, there's a lot I just went over. There's so much more we can unpack, but you cannot just send out an email and hope and pray people listen and tune in. It doesn't work.
And you got to know your benefits. If you have a wellness benefit in there, have a good relationship with your carrier where you can find out how many people have turned in their wellness claim. That could be like a Christmas club if you had as many kids as I did. But if you have that wellness benefit, make sure you're using it. Get in there. It's another reason to go in OffCycle. And I left off earlier on the life insurance with long-term care. I think that's really a critical piece right now in the marketplace for a lot of reasons. And you could do a whole separate seminar on that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are doing long-term care anymore, right? So I'm glad that still exists, at least with BCS. Charlotte, did you have something to add there real quick?
You know, I just, going back to what the panel has said, communication is key. You know, that's always said, but out of sight, out of mind. So you should be in sight and be in their mind at all times. And that means communication the right way, whether it is wellness. Have you used your wellness plan? You, as a voluntary benefits, enhanced benefits, enrollment firm, broker, whatever you are, maybe you're all in one. Communication, stay in front of them, get the message out. They need to know you like one of their best friends. That at the end of the day is how a broker, a enhanced benefit broker, stays in the game and they don't leave, because that's what people really want. They want service, and service is communication. So give it to them and they'll give you anything you want.
So last little nugget, guys, if you have any last little takeaway, if no one was listening this whole time, but they listened to this last 30 seconds here for you, what is one thing you'd like one of your viewers to at least take from today?
Mine would be passionate, use the tools you're given, read up, be a steward of your industry, network, read, listen to podcasts, and get out there and get the job done, because we're not much, but we're all they've got.
Yeah.
We have to help these people.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
What do you think, Charlotte? Finish this off and I'll end it.
Oh, I think it just left me. You know, I think I tell people, because I'm asked this question a lot, how do I get better? How do I get more clients? Okay, I would tell you to look inward. What is your fear? We all know what it is. You call in a client, they're not calling you back. Why aren't they? What is your fear? We all know what it is. And it typically is something you're not providing and you hope they don't ask, right? So what is that? And whether you can provide it or not, because, you know, technology systems, they come and go, they're expensive. It's great today, it's something new tomorrow. So I tell people, because it has worked for me and it's how I go to market, find a partner. It could be one, it could be a few, but find a few that can work with you to provide what you don't have. Don't be the one-man band. I'm the greatest at everything, because none of us are. So get your partners, go to market, be the best for them and the end user, and everything will be just fine. You'll be successful.
Thanks, Charlotte. You know, I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. He's got this golden circle rule of starting with why, and then you have your how and your what. And what I'm happy about is we did that today on today's call. You guys had some fantastic nuggets. We started this conversation with why we even do this in the first place, how we do it with communication, technology, perception is reality. And then, of course, your what is basically a fantastic employee experience, a benefit experience, and hopefully, as Charlotte just capped off there, a wonderful partnership with your employers, your benefit advisors, and your carrier partners as well. So thank you guys so much, and thank you for having me as well. You guys dropped some knowledge today. I'm sure everyone that was an attendee learned a ton today. So Eric, I'll kick it over to you, but thank you guys so much. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah,
for your
well, we appreciate everybody. Charlotte, Dan, BCS, everybody check out bcsf.com, BCS Financial, Accident, Hospital, Critical, Fixed Medical, and so much more. I'm telling you, if you're still using no offense, if you're still using every big, mega, large brand carrier out there that we've all already heard of, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I'll tell you why. I use them still too, but here's the thing. Everybody can do that. So if you really want to differentiate yourself in the market, guys, I mean it. I do this all the time. You can't always and only just use every big name carrier that every other broker knocking on the door and every other carrier rep already sells and represents. Bring something new, different, creative with a name that they might not have already heard of, probably haven't in this case, with an A-rated carrier, and you're going to start turning some heads and you're really going to get some sticky business on the book. So thanks again to everybody. BCS, Charlotte, Ed, Dan, you guys are amazing. If you saw any value in this, please stay tuned because next month we're going to have another BCS web chat series. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. It's been fun.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, BCS.
Absolutely. Thank you.